by God may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land that can be. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land, building up ancient cities, raising up devastations from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come, build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where like oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come, build a land, my people we seek. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
And now I invite Jewel, our multicultural outreach religious education director, to come talk to and give us a story for all ages. So anyone, young or old, who wants to come up to the carpet, please do.
Good morning. Thank you. Sorry about that. Oh, good morning, everybody. Hi. Okay. So we are excited to have our guest here today. Oh, Jace. Can you find Ethiopia? Okay, show everybody. So right below that is Tanzania, where Lily and Kai's dad was born. Show everybody. Okay. So do you guys remember last week that Renee was working with you guys on using your voices? So Dr. Asnake came all the way from Ethiopia to do exactly what we had talked about using your voice to impact the community. So I'm gonna read a story that comes from Kenya, which is the country right below Ethiopia. Okay. And How Are the Children? By Patrick T. O'Neill. Among the most accomplished and fabled tribes of Africa, no tribe was considered to have warriors more fearsome or more intelligent than the mighty Maasai. It is perhaps surprising then to learn the traditional greeting that passed between Maasai warriors. Kaserian Ingera, one would always say to another. It means, and how are the children? It is still the traditional greeting among the Maasai, acknowledging the high value that the Maasai always place on their children's well-being. Even warriors with no children of their own would always give the traditional answer, all the children are well, meaning, of course, that peace and safety prevail, that the priorities of protecting the young, the powerless are in place. The Maasai society has not forgotten its reason for being, its proper functions and responsibilities. All the children are well. All the children are well means that life is good. It means that by daily struggles for existence do not preclude proper caring for their young. I wonder how it might affect our consciousness of our own children's welfare if in our culture we took to greeting each other with this daily question, and how are the children? I wonder if we heard that question and passed it along to each other a dozen times a day, if it would begin to make a difference in the reality of how children are thought of or cared about in our own country. I wonder if every adult among us, parent and non-parent alike, felt an equal weight for the daily care and protection of all the children in our community, in our town, in our state, in our country, in our world. I wonder if we could truly say without any hesitation, the children are well. Yes, all the children are well. What would it be like if the minister began every worship service by answering the question, and how are the children? If every town leader had to answer the question at the beginning of every meeting, and how are the children? Are they well? Wouldn't it be interesting to hear their answers? What would it be like? I wonder. So as we learn in our classroom about using your voice, lifting up our community, this is what it is in action. Dr. Asnake comes all the way from Ethiopia to use his voice all over the world to make sure the children are well, that mothers are taken care of, that they're educated, that babies are born well. So we're gonna go in our classroom and continue talking about that. But I wanted to give Dr. Asnake a chance to, an opportunity to greet you guys if he has a message.
Good morning again. Thank you so much for having me here. Today's children are tomorrow's responsible adults who are making a difference in themselves, in their family, in their country, and beyond their country at the global level. So what we give for children today probably is not only for the sake of, I think, making them healthy, but preparing them for the future, preparing them for being a good citizen tomorrow, to make really a difference in their communities and beyond that one. So working with young children, working at a very young age in terms of probably giving them whatever is needed in terms of education, health, any of the community services, will make a big difference in the community and in the country and in the globe by having healthy people, by having better development in every part of the world. Thank you for having me here.
All right, let's
And now if we can sing our children out.
go now in
Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
And now for our centering hymn for all that is our life, number 128.
It's a nice intro. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks for all that is our life. For sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks for all that is our life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise, for all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
Thank you so much. And now for a time for us to share the joys and concerns, so we come together as a community to share them. Leanne will light the candles and I will walk around, so let me know if you have something you'd like to share with us. And I do believe now we go into our prayer, and I invite Leanne to come up and share that prayer with you.
Today's meditation prayer is written by the Reverend Daniel Chelsney Cater. God of many names and mystery beyond all of our naming, our time together today is a precious gift. We gather in the name of justice, in love and service to a higher good. We gather in hope for a world where oppression of any kind is challenged. We gather to spark the fire of commitment lit in every heart that hears the voices of those pressed down and challenged to live lives free of coercion or unduly discriminated against by laws that make decisions over their bodies without just cause. We gather to affirm that we will speak up everywhere and anywhere a woman is asked to underestimate her conscience. We ask for a blessing today on this day of gratitude, a day that celebrates success in the face of adversity and builds a consistent hope for our world. Now, a moment of silence. We have a responsive reading today that hopefully will appear up here. Tracy and I will take turns doing the guiding line, and we want the room to be split in two, right down the middle here. Gary's on one side, and the rest of you on the other. You will follow Tracy, who is in red, on the back of the order of service. So it's, okay. All right, Steve, we're going to get you for this one. Okay, so if people on this side will respond after I give you the lead line, and then on this side, Tracy. Okay, let's give it a try. It's from a poem by Judy Chicago, and it's called And Then. And then all that has been divided will merge.
And then all that has divided us will merge.
And then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind.
And then both women and men will be strong.
And then all will be rich and free and varied.
And then all will share equally in the earth's abundance.
And then all will nurture the young.
And then all will live in harmony with each other and the earth. And then both women and men will be strong. Go with it. There's a lot of pieces of paper up here, is what I want to say. And in Steve's mind, this all flows. Okay, and now I invite our speaker, Dr. Asnake, to come speak with us. Sir.
Good morning again, members of the Pacific Unitarian Universalist Church. And I would like to express my honor and feeling of blessing to be with you this morning to give you a brief talk on health and development in Ethiopia. Specifically, I would like to thank Ms. Barbara and also my very long-time old friend, Mr. Wonderson, for creating this link for me to be here today. Tena ይስጥልኝ again. As it was earlier mentioned, I'm a public health physician with over 3 decades of experience working both at the facility level and deep in the grassroots community in Ethiopia. Throughout the years of my experience, I have seen a lot of promising changes in the lives of individuals and communities, which basically encourages me to stay in the field and help those in dire needs of the support. I'll briefly share with the next few minutes my experience in providing you by giving you some background on Ethiopia, the challenges we face, and the solutions we implement, and examples of possible support areas. In the earlier children's session, they were able to identify where Ethiopia is in the map. And in the next slide, Ethiopia is a landlocked country found in the Horn of Africa, which is bordering several countries: South Sudan, Eritrea, Djibouti, and Somalia, with a lot of strategic links to the rest of the world. Through its flagship carrier the Ethiopian Airlines, the country is connected almost to all continents in the world, and it's a hub for most of African countries in their connection to the rest of the world. The total landmass of the country is 1.1 million square kilometer, probably the second largest next to Sudan in East Africa, and the 10th largest landmass in Africa. As of 2022, the Ethiopian population is estimated to be 120 million, which makes it the second largest populous country in Africa next to Nigeria. Ethiopia is also among the top 20 most populous countries in the world in 2021. To be exact, the 12th most populous country in the world. At the start of the population extrapolations shows at the start of the 22nd century, Ethiopia's population will be the eighth largest population in the world. So one can imagine how much population growth can also affect development and other socioeconomic related issues. I might come later a little bit detail in terms of the population development issues. The large segment of the population is living in rural areas, and it's only 21% of the population living in urban settings, which has a lot of implication in any of our health and development activities. With almost 80% of the population living in rural areas, our economy is primarily dependent on agriculture, which is also related to the large number of agrarian population in the country. We have over 80 different distinct ethnic groups, several religious denominations, which live together, although some minor conflicts or other things might happen here and there, but this is one of the countries where the different ethnic groups marry each other, live together, and can be harmoniously developing their country together. As a country, Ethiopia is the founder of most global organizations, including its UN membership dated November 13, 1945, when it was called the League of Nations. For your information, Ethiopia is the only African country which was never colonized, and even its leaders worked for the freedom of several African countries from getting out of the colony. And some of the 13 African countries today have similar colors of the green, yellow, red flag, taking it as a symbol of independence in Africa. The seat for the African Union is in the capital city of Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, which is also bringing Africans together. In the next slide, I briefly want to point out that Ethiopia has a lot of link in the Bible, in the biblical stories. The name Ethiopia is mentioned in the Bible 43 times in 40 different Bible verses. I hope you might come across in your Bible readings in the past, and I'll not go into details on it. Next, Ethiopia is the Cradle of Humanity, where the first archaeological evidence of fossils linked to human life dated 3.2 million years was explored in the northeastern part of the country in 1974. And this fossil was named after Lucy, and for most people, it's not an Ethiopian name, but why they were giving this name was the name was acquired from the 1960s song Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds by the Beatles group, which was loudly and repeatedly heard by the expedition group in their camp. So they gave their findings after the name of Lucy. But the local name given for this archaeological finding was Dinkanesh, literally translated as "you are marvelous." So it's basically to show like an old age archaeological finding. Ethiopia is also the source of the Blue Nile, the Nile River, the White Nile and the Blue Nile. The white coming from the Victoria Falls area, but the Blue Nile originated from Ethiopia, which contributes to the 85% of the Nile River is from the Blue Nile. And this great river, whose power and fertility nurtured the origin of civilization. So many of the Egyptian civilization in the Sudan, all those are linked to the Nile River. In the next slide, Ethiopia is also the origin of one of the life's greatest pleasures, coffee. Ethiopia's gift to the world. Historically, coffee grown worldwide can trace its heritage back centuries to the ancient coffee forest on Ethiopian plateau in the place named Kaffa. There, a legend says the goat herder Kaldi, named Kaldi, first discovered the potential of those beloved beans on his goats when they were restless after taking the beans from the plant, which later was shared to the nearby monastery for the monks, and they learned the impact from the roasted beans, both in terms of the smell, the taste, and all those things. So this is something which is there. It's not only in terms of origins or finding new things, but in the next slide, Ethiopia is also home to several religious, historical, and natural attractions, including the endangered species of the Walia ibex in the semi-mountains of the northern Ethiopia, the Aksum obelisk, the Fasil castle as origin of modern civilization in the country, and a lot of ancient religious places in the different parts of the country, which are touristic destinations. And partly, when I talk to Ethiopia, I want also people to be not only hearing about the challenge, but also so many good things to be seen in the country. In the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about the issue with population. As you can see, at the start of the 20th century, in 1900, the Ethiopian population was only 11 million. To get into 24 million, it took us 60 years. But the next doubling time was only 30 years. I'm not saying like having more population is a disadvantage, but what we need to see here is are our socioeconomic developments linked to the people which are there. If I am having a number of children which I cannot take them to the school, which I cannot help them in terms of having a better health, better education, better lifestyles, I think that's the question where all of us needs to ask. Today, the doubling time is not even that luxurious like 30 years, 35 years. It's less than 25 years. So you can really see we are 120 million when at the start of the 20th century, this country had only 11 million people. So the rapid population growth. In the 1960s, most women on average had 7 children. Today it's around 4 children. So consider, it's not about like raising the children, but those repeated pregnancies for a woman carrying every time for 9 months, bleeding after that to give birth, and all those issues needs to be considered into that. So these are some of the things where any of the population growth are contributing to the impacts on the socioeconomic and health development related issues. As I have said earlier, at the start of the 22nd century, Ethiopia population will be the 8th largest in the world. So those are the things where we need to see in terms of the challenge. The next slide. With the fast population growth and unbalanced socioeconomic development, a number of challenges are facing the country. This include the widespread poverty linked to frequent natural and man-made disasters. As I have already said, the largest, almost 80% of the population dependent on the agricultural activities, dependent on rainwater, and any of the climatic change, any of the change happening in the world are affecting that. So some of the natural disasters, even when more people are dependent on limited number of farmlands, conflicts are happening for water, for grazing land. All these things are creating huge burden on the widespread poverty. The low level of literacy linked with limited use of technological development, resulting in low capacity in managing the different health and development activities. And when you see any of the health and development outcomes between the illiterate and the literate, in anywhere in the world, you see a big difference. The more people are educated, the better opportunity to access services. Even having the awareness and the knowledge makes a great difference to make a decision in terms of their health or other socioeconomic issues. With the limited resources and low-level capacity, access to basic services such as health, education, infrastructure is affected, making service availability very difficult. Although there are a lot of changes in access to health and other development services in the past few decades, we still have a long way to go in reaching everyone in need of the services. Harmful traditional practices affecting the health of women and children, early and child marriage, female genital cutting or female genital mutilation, abduction, several forms of physical or sexual gender-based violence. All these things are affecting a lot the outcomes of health and development in the country. One of the indicators measuring the level of health and development in a country relates to the level of mortality in children and women. 1 in every 300 women dies due to pregnancy and childbirth, most of it becoming because of postpartum hemorrhage and obstructed liver being the major causes. 1 in every 30 child dies before celebrating the first birthday. These figures in maternal and child mortality has declined by 3-fold in the past 20 years. The figure which I'm showing you was 1 in 100 women was dying 20 years back, specifically because of abortion and abortion-related issues. Today, that figure went down because of more services being given, because of an extended services such as family planning in the different parts of the country. So there is a change, but we still feel that even the days of one woman is a great tragedy, which I will try to share with you a little bit later on a story of a woman, which can at least give you a highlight in terms of what are some of the major problems into that. Specifically, when we talk about the mortality in women or health in women, we need to consider 3 important delays which are contributing to that. Next slide. These 3 delays, the first one is delay in the household level in making a critical decision. When a woman needs the service, the first decision comes at the household level, starting from having the knowledge or the awareness that her problem needs medical care. Her problem needs to go to a facility. That knowledge is a very important one. Beyond that, the number of traditional beliefs, again, in a patriarchal society, the male involvement is very, very important. In most rural areas, the male are responsible for paying for any of the bills. So if a woman wants to go to the next facility, then that resource should be available at the household level. Again, experience from the past. Sometimes you hear from communities that all my children were born at home. Why this time I need to go to the health facility? So that belief makes them to stay at home whenever they have the problem. No, this is a simple flu. Why I go to a facility to get treatment? I can't treat it at home. These types of beliefs are affecting a lot into that one. So once that decision is made, the second level of delay or is related to delay in reaching the health facility. Several things are there, economical reasons. If they don't have the money to pay for transport, that's one. Again, the absence or the presence of a transport facility, including ambulances, are very important to take from the household level to. In the past few years, in each of the districts, there is an initiative to have ambulances, which is a very good thing to reach to the community. But that's not enough. More needs to be done into that. The road infrastructure. Some of the people are living in very remote areas where road infrastructure is not there. Or they need to pass a river. They need to go up and down a mountain to reach to the facility. Distance to the health facility. Most of our facilities are a bit distant. That's also something which can affect. So action at each level of the delay contribute a lot in decreasing the maternal morbidity and mortality. I'll try to share you a brief story to really highlight all these things. Next slide. The story of Aisha. Aisha was born and raised in a rural family in central part of Ethiopia. Like her age mates, Aisha didn't get the chance to go to school, but stayed home taking major household responsibilities. One day at the age 13, as part of her day-to-day responsibilities, Aisha went to fetch water but didn't come back home. She was abducted on the way back. As a result of the abduction, Aisha was forced to get married, and as part of the premarital traditional practice in the area, she had to go through the practice of female genital mutilation. By age 21, she has already given birth to 5 children. This was the first time when a community worker advised the family on the use of contraception, but the husband resisted the advice. Based on the information from the community worker, Aisha went hiding from her husband to the nearby health facility to take injectable contraceptive, with a feeling that this method might not be easily recognized by her husband. But she went back home without a remedy, since the health facility was out of contraceptive stock. Situations were the same for Aisha, and there was no choice for her until she gave birth to her 7th pregnancy, where her husband was convinced by a village elder who advocates for healthy family in using contraceptive methods, which can protect them from unwanted pregnancy for long years. Having this information and agreement between the couple, they left to the health center in town to get a long-acting family planning service. After their long trip and a queue in the health center, they failed to get the method of their choice since the trained provider left the facility a few months back. Continuing the same course of life, during the 5th month of her 8th pregnancy, Aisha died of severe bleeding, leaving behind all her children without a mother. For Aisha's family, this is a tragedy of a lifetime. But for most of us from a distance, it's an addition to the high level of maternal mortality statistics. Although in this story the burden seems too much for a poor woman like Aisha, it represents the day-to-day reality of millions of rural women who live in hard-to-reach areas where services are inaccessible. Aisha's story vividly tells us the major issues and obstacles related to harmful traditional practices such as abduction, female genital cutting, mutilation, early child marriage, early childbearing, high fertility, male resistance, shortage or lack of commodities, lack of trained personnel and retention mechanisms, maternal morbidity and mortality. Next slide. Having all these challenges, we are doing a lot, including works at the community level by really providing individual and group awareness. We use community volunteers, we use religious leaders, we use community leaders, because the leaders living together with the community are heard more than a health worker coming from a distant place. So we use them to really teach others into that. Women and girls empowerment, specifically support to women's group and economical empowerment, because if the woman can make a decision by herself, that economical empowerment will help her to take her child to the facility, to go for herself to take any of the services there. Girls' education, like the story in Aisha, she was not educated. But girls' education will make a big difference in terms of their future lives. That's another important area. Again, community-based health insurance. I think in Ethiopia, we just started in most places a community-based health insurance. It's a very small amount of payment, but the pooled payment will help a family to get their health services anytime without worrying about financial risks. In most of the time, if they don't have the insurance or if they don't have the mechanism, they have to sell their assets, agricultural materials, their oxes, their house, all those things just for treatment. Again, support at the facility level in terms of building the capacity of service providers, provision of supplies and equipments, continuous mentoring and coaching are some of the support which we are doing at the facility level, which are making a great change into that. Next slide. Empowering girls through education and life skills is a very important thing. Briefly, what we do here is, first of all, we want girls to have self-awareness, know themselves. In most rural areas today, if you go and ask a young girl, what do you want to be? The choices they may give you is either they want to be a housewife or a teacher. But after this type of empowerment programs, they will come. I want to be the minister for youth. I want to be the prime minister. I want to be a doctor. Because they start to understand that it's not only being a teacher or being a housewife in terms of their career. If they learn, if they do, they can be more into that one. Knowing their environment, what the police can help, what the financial institution can do. I mean, if young girls start to save money at a very young age, when they reach to the university or other places, they can make a big difference in their life and also their families. Planning for the future, be part of the country development. These are some of the things which can be done into that. What differences can make, if any contributions are made? I will only give you very few examples, but several examples can be there. In the last slide, $150 can support a girl to continue her full year education, either at the high school or university level. The most education is being given in the country freely, but not having a resource to pay for their exercise book, not having to pay for them some of the expenses, will make those young girls to discontinue their work. A $10 can support, I talked about a community-based health insurance. It's like only $10 per year where a family of 5 can pay. With that, they can go to a health facility to get the service they want. I think the trick here is if 1,000 families are paying, maybe 100 of them may be sick. Not everyone will be sick to go to the facility. So the pooled resources will help them really to get services throughout the year. Some supports like 40 cents of a dollar can support one meal for a student in a high school to continue their education. So any contribution can support improvement in the health and well-being of individuals and families. Before I end my talk, I just want to go back to the story. Aisha's journey in life started at the age of 13, just 13. Think about it. And that journey was short-lived and ended in a tragic way. She bleeds to death. How many 13-year-old do you know who may face the same fate like Aisha? We have the knowledge, the know-how, and the will to stop that from happening. As you think of Aisha, let us work together in saving the millions of women, men, youth, and children who desperately need our support, without which they are destined to have similar tragedies like Aisha. We should not be the custodians of worsening statistics, but providers of better hope and life for millions who expect so much from us. Thank you so much for listening to my talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And as fitting, we will have a split plate offertory today. Please give as you are willing and able for this amazing cause and this beautiful space that we share.
Would you harbor me? Would I harbor you? Would you harbor me? Would I harbor you? A Jew, a heretic, convict, or spy? Would you harbor a runaway woman or child, a poet, a prophet, a king? Would you harbor an exile or a refugee, a person living with AIDS? Would you harbor a Tubman, a Garrett, a Truth, a fugitive, or a slave? Would you harbor a Haitian, Korean, or Czech, a lesbian, or a gay? Would you harbor a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, a heretic, convict, or spy? Would you harbor a runaway woman or child, a poet, a prophet, a king? Would you harbor an exile or a refugee, a person living with AIDS? Would you harbor a Tubman, a Garrett, a Truth, a fugitive, or a slave? Would you harbor a Haitian, Korean, or Czech, a lesbian, or a gay? Would you harbor me? Would you harbor me? Would you harbor me?
And now for our affirmation of gratitude. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for all those who share their gifts, for we are enriched by their giving. And let us also be grateful even for our needs, so that we may experience the generosity of others. And now for our closing hymn.
Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
In closing, let us remember, this church is dedicated to the proposition that behind all of our differences and beneath all of our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together. In spite of time and death and the space between the stars, we pause in silent witness to that unity.
May the blessing of love be upon you. May love's peace abide with you. May love's presence illuminate your hearts now and forevermore. So be it. Amen. Shalom, salam, namaste, and blessed be. And now, our service truly begins. And before our prelude, I would like to ask a question of Dr. Asnake. For those who would like to make a donation today, to whom should they make out checks if they're not donating cash? You will give us an address. Do you have a name that we might be able to put on a check? Not quite yet.
Probably for the Rotary Club, that might be easy.
The Rotary Club? Thank you. If anybody was looking for a name to write out a check to, it would be to the Rotary Club, and it will end up in Dr. Asnake's hands. And now for our prelude.
I'd like to swim in a clear blue stream where the water is icy cold, then go to town in a golden gown and have my fortune told. Just once, just once, just once before I'm old. I'd like to be not evil, but a little worldly wise, to be the kind of girl designed to be kissed upon the eyes. I'd like to dance till 2 o'clock, or sometimes dance till dawn. Or if the band could stand it, just go on and on and on. Just once before it's gone. I'd like to waste a week or two and never do a chore, to wear my hair unfastened so it billows to the floor, to do the things I've dreamed about but never done before. Perhaps I'm bad or wild or mad, with lots of grief in store, but I want much more than keeping house, much more, much more.